I boil your head and serve it with mashed potatoes.
What is going on, guys? Jack here and welcome back to another DirtyBomb video, and today I want to talk with you guys all about the current state of Javelin. Of course, she's been in the game for less than a week. I feel like she's a merc that has split opinions. People have certainly had opinions on her. And in this video I want to kind of just give an initial first thought of her as a merc in DirtyBomb after just under a week of gameplay. So we'll start with the positives, the good things about Javelin. Firstly, I really like the new weapons. I think it's nice to see new weapons being added into DirtyBomb. It's been over a year since we had some added. Of course, we have the assault rifle, the Shark, which I maintain is a Blishblock K121 hybrid. It's a really nice weapon if you can land headshots. I think for people who aren't that consistent with their aiming, it's perhaps a little bit not so great, but if you can hit just a few headshots, you're in good stead. With its recoil, it is a weapon that really you need to be killing an enemy within the first 10 or 15 shots, otherwise you are going to struggle to hit their heads. And it does open itself up to being aimed down sights at long range, which is something that I kind of do with the Dryce, but I only really can think of the Shark as another weapon that I do that with. The axe is consistent as well, a really nice secondary, although there's not so much to be said on the secondaries. I feel like the axe just does the job and it feels quite unique and consistent, which is nice because there's weapons like the Kukri where if you don't know if you're going to hit people or if you're just going to give them a gentle pat on the back with your blade. Anyway, next bit, guided rockets are fun to use. I feel like Javelin as a whole is fun to use. Her rocket is quite a new, unique mechanic. I like the idea of guiding it. It's fairly unique to DirtyBomb. I think there was a rocket in one of the Half-Life games that acted similarly. And the other thing that I think is a really good positive for Javelin is just the kind of sheer plethora of loadouts that she has. There are so many good loadouts for her. Obviously, I did a video reviewing them all. If I'm honest, I feel like all 9 of them are fairly usable and everyone is going to have their own preferences. I still certainly have my own, and I also have my kind of own preference of augments, you know, recharge versus bigger blasts. But at the same time, I feel like everyone's going to have their own playstyle, and the only other merc I can feel like is comparable to Javelin is actually Sparks. Anyway, I do want to move on to some negatives. I don't want to be a negative kind of Nancy, but at the same time I feel like in being negative it can help the game improve, and I don't want to come across as just mindlessly whinging. But yeah, there is stuff that I would like to see change with her. So I think the issue with Javelin fundamentally, and this is something that people seem to complain about a lot, is that she's very good at being an assault merc, but she's also very good at being a fire support merc in terms of giving out ammo. For me, Javelin represents potentially a turning point in DirtyBomb in terms of I feel like she is a jack of two different classes. Although she's technically with all the other fire support mercs, I feel like her assault kind of potential is good, if not quite on par with Fragger. I think the issue with Javelin really is, at least initially, is that she's frustrating to play against a multiple kind of herself. So if you're playing against 3 or 4 Javelins, which of course with her coming out this week has been fairly frequently, especially in the first few days, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot you can do, and I've seen people complaining about that. I don't feel like that's a very valid criticism of Javelin, because I think fundamentally you could make that complaint about most mercs. A lot of mercs, if you're playing against 4 of them, it's not that fun to play against, and with her being the new merc, it's kind of inevitable that this was going to happen. Obviously we didn't really see it quite so much with Turtle. I don't feel like as many people hopped on the Turtle bandwagon when he was released. Another issue that I kind of have with Javelin is that her ammo feedback is off, in terms of it's difficult to know sometimes when you're giving teammates ammo and if you're able to give them ammo. And I think the issue that this comes down to, and it kind of feeds into that idea that she's good at assault, but she's also a very good fire support, is the fact that she just gives so much ammo out with little to no effort. Obviously she acts like an ammo station essentially right now. In my personal opinion, I'd much rather see a system whereby she has charges of ammo that she kind of automatically gives out every, say, 7 seconds. And the way that these charges would work is there are 4 of them that you have. Each time you give ammo, one of the charges is depleted. It takes 7 seconds to replenish that individual charge, and at maximum capacity you can be holding 4 separate kind of, you know, I guess ammo magazines at once. I feel like that would be a better way to do things rather than what we've got now, where it kind of just feels a bit random if you're going to get ammo off the Javelin or not. It would also somewhat combat the fact that Javelin just feels like a really strong fire support, perhaps even the best fire support when it comes to giving out ammo, but also has one of the most potent abilities. Anyway, the next kind of 2 things that go hand in hand. The first thing is suicide rockets are really annoying. They are annoying, and there isn't always a lot you can do against it. Obviously, if you see a Javelin coming, and I feel like this is something people have got to get used to, your first instinct should be to turn away and run. But by the same token, if a Javelin kind of clicks the rocket, pre-fires round a corner and then just shoots it at her own feet, you kind of feel like there's not a lot you can do, and it almost becomes a bit of a click and shoot. And by the same token, the insta-gibbing on the rocket is a little too strong in my opinion right now. I feel like the rocket was given some damage values to make it good against objectives, and inadvertently that's made it so it's quite good at insta-gibbing. I'm not actually against the opinion of that if a rocket direct impacts a merc, it kills them instantly on the spot. But I believe there are some instances right now where you can get hit by a rocket that doesn't direct impact you and it will insta-gib you, which can come across as quite frustrating. In terms of fixes for this kind of issue, I think to start with, it's important to kind of recognise the fact that we don't want to see mercs change too quickly. We experienced it with Phantom 2 years ago, where Phantom was nerfed into the ground, became largely unusable. And I feel like a lot of people are going to look at DirtyBomb and kind of accuse them of doing what League of Legends has done in the past in terms of intentionally making an overpowered hero, or overpowered merc in this case, so loads of people buy Javelin, then they nerf her into the ground and she becomes unusable. I actually don't think Javelin is too horrifically overpowered, and I'd much rather see a slow and steady approach. Of course, we did see some merc ability changes in the kind of not so recent past, and it was very minor changes then, stuff like 10% extra damage on Stoker's Molotov, Thunder losing 10 hit points. I'd much rather see that kind of steady reduction, I guess, in Javelin's potency as opposed to just a massive nerf all at once. So, a few ideas for how she can maybe be changed. I think the first thing, and I mentioned this in my live commentary recently with Javelin, is that I feel like the charge-up sound of the rocket needs to be louder. I feel like if you're within a 20-meter kind of area of the Javelin, you should know that her rocket is about to be fired from the charge-up sound. That would combat the situation where a Javelin comes around the corner and just shoots at her feet, because you might be able to hear her pre-firing before she runs around the corner. It also gives you kind of time to react, potentially, be that to run away to safety, be that to pull out a knife and try and pineapple juggler it back. But ultimately, I think that would be a minor change which would have a big difference, and the thing that's worth noting is that her rocket sound is already audible, the charge up. It's just so quiet that in the heat of battle you don't really hear it. Anyway, a few other ideas. A longer charge up would be nice in terms of the actual time it takes for the rocket upon clicking to kind of actually come out. I believe it's 1 second at the moment. Due to the time to kills in DirtyBomb, it's difficult to kill an enemy merc in that time. I'd maybe like to see it go up to 1.5 seconds, although maybe the feedback would feel off on the rocket. Another change you could do would be to have an arm time on the rocket to stop with the annoying suiciding, although I will say I think that is actually part of Javelin's kit, as much as people will hate me to say that, is that she is an ambush attacker who can just shoot a rocket down at her feet. Perhaps creating a minimum arm distance on the rocket would be a way to go, in terms of the rocket has to, say, travel 3 meters in the air before it will actually blow up on impact. The issue with that is that you kind of have to communicate it somehow, and that wouldn't be a very easy thing to do. And the last change that I have would be maybe the longer the rocket's in the air, the higher the damage is on it. I think that might, encourage less suicide RPGing. Maybe you could insta-give enemies if you map them. You shoot them 20 meters away. I feel like at that point, if you hit someone, you almost earn the insta-give. Whereas if you're shooting down at your feet, it just feels a little bit cheap all in all, and not really in the spirit of DirtyBomb. Although I understand if you played ET, you'll know that the Panzer that was what you did with the Panzer, is you did suicide rocket. If you could take down yourself and 2 enemies, it was a good trade. It's just kind of frustrating, I guess, to be on the receiving end of. I did say I was done with suggestions, just one last one. I wouldn't mind seeing an increase in the rocket cooldown. I think the issue for Javelin right now is that she's a good assault merc and she's a great fire support merc. I feel like tweaks need to be made to make her not the best at giving ammo, but also kind of negate her damage dealing ability, be that through making the rocket cooldown longer, be that by removing her insta-give potential, be that by increasing the charge up time. I think there's a few different ways you could go with Javelin changes. Anyway, I'd be interested to know your thoughts down in the comments in terms of Javelin's release, how you're finding her to play against. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, guys, please do leave a like on this video. Let me know what you'd change about Javelin down in the comments. And other than that, that's all from me. Thank you for watching. It is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.